Reading multiple choice, multiple answers guided practice. Let's begin the session. Here's your first question. Feel free to pause the video. The answers. As always, start by reading the question. Why scientifically based research preferred for evaluating effectiveness of programs and strategies? So, there are a lot of keywords in this question. Scientifically based research, evaluation of programs, strategies. So based upon this, I can say that the text, it can either be focused on programs and strategies, and then the importance of scientifically based research in evaluating their effectiveness. Or it can be about scientifically based research in general, and in that there can be some mention of how it plays a big role in evaluating the effectiveness of programs and strategies. So we'll keep an eye, we'll try to understand when we skim. So scientifically based research includes a broad area of, so this confirms that this is written from the angle of research, that the main idea, the theme of this is scientifically based research, and in that they're going to talk about effectiveness of programs and strategies. For evaluating research evidence specifically about the effectiveness of programs and strategies, it can be helpful to use certain criteria such as this. First, it's empirical. It involves the systematic gathering, includes using observation, often when people think of research, etc., etc. So it's all about, scientifically based research. And then I think explains why it's effective, for why it is preferred for evaluating programs and strategies. So that means some of these options, they're going to find mention here, but others will not. So we have to look for that. We have to find the ones which find a mention, because that's what we have been asked. The first one, scientifically based research involves systematic gathering and analysis of data. So there's a sentence right here, which means that it involves the systematic gathering and analysis of data using measures that are reliable and valid. Okay. And that means that's why it is preferred. This is a simple enough question in that sense that you're going to find a mention here. All you have to do is you have to make sure that you properly read. You're not just, when you find the mention of what's in the option, don't just read that, but also read the sentence before and sentence afterwards. Make sure that it fits in. Let's see with this option. Scientifically based research involves testing hypotheses using data. So where does it talk about hypotheses using data? Systematic gathering and analysis of data. Often when scientific does involve reviewing, it says it also involves testing hypotheses using data. And this is one important way that scientifically based research differs from research. And as they say, that's the reason why it is preferred. So you see, you have to read the whole sentence and sometimes even the sentence before and afterwards to understand the full context. You do that and you'll be able to arrive at all the three correct options. Let's go to the next question. The answers. The question, which of the following is a valid reason for why animals form groups? So that means the text, they're going to talk about animals and maybe animals living in groups and why they form groups. And each of these options is supposed to be a reason why they do so. We have to find which of these are valid reasons based upon the text. So quickly skim the text. Most primates live in groups. The best explanation, form groups and endure the cost of feeding competition, is to minimize risk of predation. Grouping patterns are tied to this, or out to maximize resources. There's a safety in numbers. If a species specializes on ripe fruit, they cannot defend them because of the patchy nature of fruit, etc., etc. Solitary due to the large size. Finally, if a species can eat a variety of things, they can band together and defend those resources. Okay. So it explains why they live in groups and give different reasons. So we need to one by one validate each. Animals form groups to defend themselves against predation. And it says here, they form groups to minimize the risk of predation. So this is the correct option. They form groups to maximize reproductive success. So where do they talk about reproduction? Females are out to maximize resources for themselves and their offspring so as to maximize their reproductive success, right? But they do not say that this is the reason why animals live in groups. Okay. It says grouping patterns are tied to diet and the defensibility of resources. Females, they want to maximize their resources so as to maximize their reproductive success. But there's no clear indication that animals live in groups for this purpose. Animals form groups if they need a variety of foods for survival. Yeah. So here it says if a species can eat a variety of things. So a species here is a synonym for animals, a type of animals. An animal species can eat, if they can eat a variety of things, they can band together and defend those resources. So that's a valid option. Okay. Also make sure that you spend some time trying to understand why these other two options are not correct. So either you will not find any information to support these, or even if a part of this is mentioned that to defend the food resources, you'll not find a clear statement which says that this is why the animals, they form groups. Okay, let's go to the next question. The options. Which of the following statements about debt collection are not true? So that means we need to verify the text is going to be about debt collection, and we need to find the statement which is not true. So let's first skim. Debt collectors who work on commission may be highly motivated to convince debtors to pay, may be regulated by the nation. At times, a person with no connection may be contacted by a collector by error, etc., etc. Relatives of deceased people do not necessarily themselves have to pay the debts of the deceased. International debt collection is a specialized field. So, starts by telling us about the collectors and the collection agencies, and then something about the process, and then further who pays if the person has passed away, and finally a little bit about international debt collection. So we have to see which of these statements are not, which of these options are not mentioned or are not correct as per the text. Let's first look at the third one. Any person who matches the debtor's identity is liable to pay the debt, even if a victim of identity fraud. So here it says that sometimes a person with no connection may be contacted. Examples include victims of identity theft and people erroneously targeted due to a similar name. Okay. In such cases, the alleged debtor can require that the collector or creditor provide that the debt is payable. In no jurisdiction does a debt may exist merely because a collector says so. So that means it doesn't become the responsibility. The person doesn't become liable just because their name matches or their identity matches. And that's why it's a correct option for us, because it's not true as per the text. Right now, you can pause the video, make sure that you understand the reasoning behind why we selected all the other options, two other options, and why the rest of the options are incorrect. You must spend time to understand the reason. The final question from this practice session. The answers. Let's read the question. Which of the following are not considered as effective methods for weight loss? So that means the text will be about what? About weight loss and the methods of weight loss. Now, the text might include information, which methods are best, which are effective, which give results, which are not effective. And the options, what are the options about? The options tell you each option is supposed to be an effective method for weight loss. And you have to pick the ones which are not so, okay, which are not mentioned in the text or which are incorrect as per the text. So the first thing that you do, you skim through, as we have discussed in so many questions. The first, the least intrusive weight loss methods are adjustments to eating patterns. People combine an increase in fiber, other methods, too common, bariatric, surgical procedures, etc., etc., dietary supplements. Virtual gastric band uses hypnosis. This method is complemented with psychological treatment, etc. So first, they talk about least intrusive methods, that is adjustment to diet and physical activity. Then talk about fiber intake, some kind of surgeries, and finally about psychology, hypnosis, virtual gastric bands. So basically, all about different methods. And for each method, they also discuss how effective or whether it's considered a good method or not. So changing eating patterns along with increasing physical activity. Now here it says are most often recommended. Adjustments to eating patterns and increased physical activity. So that means they're most often recommended means they are considered effective methods. That's why they will be recommended. So that also means that's not our correct option. We will not select because we have to find the options which are not considered effective. Increasing physical activity without changing eating pattern. No, they don't see that. They say eating pattern and increased physical activity. Together, they are considered good option, not just doing one without another. Using dietary supplements. So yeah, here they talk about dietary supplements, though widely used, are not considered a healthy option for weight loss. So they are not considered healthy, means they are not considered effective for weight loss. So that's why this also is an option that we will select. Now you complete the rest of the question. There's one option, figure out why this one is not considered an effective method and why we selected it and why the other ones we didn't select. All right. You have to use the same reasoning that we applied. The option, it should, without any doubt, 100% match the information that's mentioned in the text. Don't just do a keyword match. Make sure that you understand the whole option and you understand the complete sentences in the text, and only then you find a match.